Hello and welcome to COVID Conversations here on WNCU 90.7 FM, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm your host, Kimberley Pierce Cartwright, News and Public Affairs Director at WNCU 90.7 FM. We want you to continue to like us, you to please check us out on Facebook and on Instagram. We're using the Zoom platform to just talk about how COVID-19 is affecting our world as COVID-19 has swept across America and around the world. Public radio stations have been under a lot of strain just to stay on the air and to make ends meet. And stations have seen losses in underwriting and in membership drives. And while the virus dissipates and we're seeing some things come back to normal, public radio stations like WNCU, a small public radio station, is working very hard to fill depleted financial coffers. And here to talk about surviving the pandemic at WNCU is General Manager Lackisha Freeman. Hello and welcome to the show.
Well, hello, Kimberly, and hello to all of our listening audience out there, regardless of the platform that you may be on. I'm definitely excited to be a guest on COVID Conversations today.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I know that you're extremely busy and time does fly when you're really trying to make some things happen at the station. So thanks again. First question, why WNCU fundraise? And this is for everybody who may know and who may not know. We're going to reiterate for those who maybe bring some other people up to speed who don't.
Well, as a public radio station, it is one of the core revenue streams for public radio stations like WNCU. That is the main focal point of how we operate here at the station. So we have listeners, and our main goal is to not only obtain listeners, but to have those listeners to convert to become supporters of the station as well. And that is a large part of our budget and how we operate. And again, that stream of revenue that comes in through listener support. And we have made 4 on-air membership campaigns during the year. We have one coming up soon this month as we get to the end. I think it's the last weekend of this month. We are hoping that our listeners will show up and show out for us.
Mm-hmm. And that's my hope too. And full disclosure, you are the general manager of WNCU and I'm the news director of WNCU. So we have a very close relationship at the station. Second question, the public health crisis, COVID-19, caused some stations to preemptively postpone their drives. What were you thinking when you first learned about the station not being able to handle business as usual because of this pandemic that happened all of a sudden?
It was a bit chaotic. When we received the memo from North Carolina Central University last March, when basically we're shutting down campus, shutting down operations and moving things on board to operate remotely. And obviously my main concern was how do we continue to broadcast to keep everyone safe at the same time? And then due to limited resources, there was a huge concern of mine as to when we go home remotely, how we then begin to allow folks to continue to create content and to have that content distributed or sent back to the station for broadcast. Because of the limited resources, we couldn't send everyone home with those broadcast packages that many public radio stations with larger budgets had the capacity to do. But then thank goodness for software and many different applications, because that is how we were able to abruptly in some of our operations that we were used to accommodating in the office or on campus, we were able to take those things home, especially internally office operations. We were using different softwares that the university's ITS department were able to provide to us to train us on how to be able to use that software and navigate even some of the hardware as well. So I am truly thankful and grateful that we were were able to lean on the infrastructure from North Carolina Central University to allow us to be able to move forward, continue to operate from home, to do productions from home, and be creative at the same time. While I always say that it was definitely a challenge for us, but it was also a gateway and a door for us to be innovative and creative. And as I said, it definitely opened many doors for us, and it definitely opened my eyes of ways and the ability and the capacity that we really had that we didn't know at the time. So although I wish it was not COVID-19 or the pandemic that we were going through, but I'm grateful for the doors and the windows that were open for us.
Yep, and this program is really an offshoot of what we had to do to bend and shape to be able to offer additional programming during COVID. So it's been a wild ride, and I'd like to know why did you decide not to cancel fund drives during the pandemic? So many other stations were grappling with the same kind of thought pattern. How do we manage to make money during COVID? So why did you decide not to cancel the drives?
Well, I think spring of last year, we had already sent out, our normal process of sending out the mail solicitations to our supporters in the past. We did suspend that campaign in the spring, April of 2020. And due to that suspension of that campaign, which is a major fundraiser for us, is one of our longer, bigger campaigns in any fiscal year. My concerns still remain, although we again suspended that. It's about a week and a half campaign. We suspended that campaign, but then in June, which we normally would have our fiscal year campaign, we actually, instead of having 3 days, it was weekends back to back. So the last 2 weekends of June 2020, we returned back with a very skeleton crew of just our core team that we have at WNCU. We use software that the university's ITS department was able to provide for us and to help support us answering phones and to continue to be able to social distance, not be in the same room. And so we use our laptops and a software that allowed us to receive phone calls through our laptops, and we were able to process gifts as people called in. I'm definitely thankful for our listeners and our supporters who called in during that time to support us, and also being understanding, with the software that we were using. And even though it was rotating those calls, but sometimes many calls were coming in at the same time. And as thankful and as grateful as I am that they were coming in, sometimes, it was getting backed up and people were saying, I had to call again. I'm really trying to get you all and call in and support. And that turnout and the support that we received the last 2 weekends in June of 2020 was just amazing. And again, the support from the university, not only the ITS department, but also from the director of environmental health and safety. She and her team provided, the PPE that we needed to be able to move forward. I also remember late nights of shopping online myself, because some supplies the university was not able to get their hands on immediately until maybe around about July or August. And that was some of my woes some nights, being up in the middle of the night trying to get our hands on some of the disinfectants and the very popular brands that everybody wanted to get their hands on, the very popular disinfectant wipes, gloves, masks, all of those things, just trying to order those things independently of the university as well. But again, the major support that we received from the health and safety department was just outstanding for us. And it did allow us to come in for those pivotal moments of getting the financial support and doing the fundraisers, and for us to do it safely.
So beyond fund drives, the station, it faces vulnerability because it receives money from underwriting revenues from other arts and culture organizations. How were underwriting revenues affected at WNCU? If you could talk about that for us.
That is definitely something that it's still a challenge for us, and it is a big gap. It's a huge gap that we have in our budget for this fiscal year, as we are about to close out our fiscal year on June 30th. So last I looked, which was the beginning the end of last month, the end of May, we were only about 29%. Where we were in the previous year in regards to underwriting. So that's a huge gap. That means we're down about 70% in regards to as where we should be in regards to underwriting. And that is because many of those performance venues, as you mentioned, their doors were shuttered just as ours were. And they were not able to host those performances as they were in the past. So in regards to entertainment and things of that nature in our community, folks were not able to see live entertainment. But that's kind of where WNCU came in, and I'm kind of excited about us being able to be there and be the companion for the community that we serve. But definitely in regards to us receiving sponsorships from those entities in our community, there's a huge gap there, and we are hoping to recover next fiscal year. We're hoping to recover and lean on donations. If there are any foundations out there, that's listening, and you all have some support that you could lend to WNCU, I ask that, you would reach out to me directly. If there's something we could do, any grant opportunities, that would be just extremely amazing for us to allow us to continue to not only sustain the operations that we're currently doing, but to also expand as well. That is definitely my hope. I want us to not only sustain, but to thrive in this community that we serve.
And I want to jump to the fundraiser that's coming up next weekend. Could you talk about what's needed during the fund drive, and maybe make a further appeal to people who could possibly give?
Well, Kimberly, I have set a very ambitious goal of $50,000 for that campaign. It is a 3-day campaign. It will be Friday through Sunday. I believe that is the 25th through the 27th. June the 25th through the 27th, and I hope that is that Friday, the last Friday through Sunday, for the end of this month. And again, I have set a very ambitious goal, but I was very intentional in that, because as I have shared already, there's a huge gap in regards to underwriting, and hoping that we can, rely on our listeners out there, hopefully recoup some new listeners. If listeners have given in the past, and if you do, have the ability to send us an additional gift, that will extremely help us out as well. If you know of any funding opportunities out there, again, any foundations, because sometimes you don't know until you ask. And sometimes with us having the network that we have with the many listeners and tens of thousands of listeners that we have out there, they may know of some potential foundations that sometimes they give out discretionary gifts where it's, no strings tied. We appreciate the work and that you do in the community, that you provide to the community, and we can apply for that. And so I'm hoping that, those type of opportunities will come out of, not only this discussion here with you today, but also just maybe people passing it around and getting the word out. We definitely need the support to continue to operate.
I want to talk a little bit about another opportunity that's coming up for WNCU. You are partnering with some performances that are coming up, and that's going to get WNCU out of the office and out into the community. So can we talk about the latest collaboration that WNCU has going on?
Yes. So, what started as just an idea of what can we do? We've been here as a companion for our listening audience, for our local community. What can we do to kind of open up the gates and be a part of the recovery of the impact that COVID-19 has caused in our community? And I just started thinking about healing and again, thinking about being companions to the community. And music has done that for us. Being a broadcast entity that has continued to operate during COVID-19, I started thinking about, well, maybe we can, jump out and have a small concert series, but I said it will have to be outside. Time that all this came about, I believe the government's restrictions during that time was that I think only 100 people could gather at the time because it had increased gradually. And I was like, well, maybe we can just get 100 people and then we would, there would be a cap. And I thought about Durham Central Park. And when I reached out to them, they were at the same time strategizing because they had to cancel the playlist music series last year due to COVID. And they were strategizing about, how they could then pivot and then launch the series this year. And that was kind of the making of the idea of how we join forces to now put on and co-present the playlist music series for 2021. And this will be a concert for the first Friday of every month, beginning July, and it will actually go out through October. So that's 4 concerts. And we have vendor opportunities, sponsorship opportunities. If anyone out there that's listening, if you're interested, if you have a business, you want to set up for a vendor, we have set up for tables for vendors as well. Feel free to give me a call, 919-530-7267. We definitely want to get vendors as well, because again, this is yet another opportunity for us to generate revenue, although it will be for our next fiscal year of FY 2022. But what way to kind of start and kick the year off that way?
Okay, so time is fleeting and we just have another couple of minutes left. So I want to ask you the one big thing, what is it that you would like to know, like the audience to know most about WNCU?
WNCU is a public radio station that is here for the community, to serve the community. And we exist only because of you, our listeners. We hope that we are providing programming that is of interest to you. And if it isn't programming that is not of interest to you, we want to hear that as well. We don't want to just put content out there and if it's not relevant to the audience that we're serving. So, we're that station that wants to be there for the community to provide content that is of interest and is relevant to them as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, I do appreciate your time today. And good luck with the fundraiser. Good luck with the music series that's coming up. It sounds like it's going to be absolutely a wonderful venture for WNCU and the community at large. I appreciate you.
All righty. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Take care.
Okay, and thank you, audience, for watching COVID Conversations via YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram, as well as listening on WNCU 90.7 FM. We want you to be sure to follow us, to like us, and to subscribe to our pages to see more of our archived shows. I'm Kimberly Pierce Cartwright, your host for COVID Conversations. We'll see you guys next time.